Good morning, everyone. We have some MicroStrategy news to talk about, and we're also going to get into Iris Energy or Iren stock. Now, as for MicroStrategy, I mentioned yesterday that they didn't make an 11th consecutive Bitcoin buy. We just had news today that they did, in fact, make another Bitcoin purchase this week, and this marks the 11th consecutive week. MicroStrategy has bought 11,000 Bitcoin at an average price of approximately $101,191 from January 13 through January 20. That brings them up to about $47.9 billion worth of Bitcoin with no end in sight. And we just had very recent news from MicroStrategy that the shareholder vote was approved. MicroStrategy will see a 30-fold increase in shares, bringing their shares from 330 million to 10.3 billion shares. And all this should happen by 2027. That is quite a lot of dilution. And considering the timeline, I think this is going to be a very interesting crypto winter. But we did receive our announcement here on Tuesday today that MicroStrategy purchased an 11,000 Bitcoin for $1.1 billion. Now looking at MicroStrategy on the chart, it is 1% down today. A lot of other crypto assets are down a lot more, one of which is the Bitcoin miners, and we'll look at Iren in a second here. But MicroStrategy is holding up pretty well. Like I said in my previous video, you do not want to hold this throughout crypto winter. When Bitcoin's doing good, MicroStrategy will do good. The moment we get into a crypto winter, the moment we get into a serious bear market, you don't want to be sticking around with MicroStrategy. Now, if you think Bitcoin is going to do something different, it's going to break its 4-year cycle, you want to take that risk, that's perfectly fine. But I think all of the Bitcoin assets, alts, Bitcoin miners, MicroStrategy, Coinbase, these are essentially derivatives of Bitcoin. If Bitcoin's doing good, these will in many cases do better. If Bitcoin's doing bad, in many cases, these will do worse. You do not want to hold these throughout crypto winter. One thing that's positive about MicroStrategy is they did reclaim the 50 MA. We did break back over this trend. Now, there are reactions on it. I don't know how much longer the market's going to follow this and react on it. But, you know, we did see a little bit more of a sell-off when we broke it. And we did see an accelerated move when we broke above it. Similarly here. You know, perhaps we get rejected at this point, start pulling back, try to use this as a support. If it fails, we sell off more. I want to see us hold these lows and hopefully set a higher low. But so far, we've been setting higher highs, higher lows. This is a positive, but we do need to break out of this roughly 430 area. One thing is looking at the fib retracement tool. From this run where the run basically started, we did retrace all the way to the 0.618, which was conveniently also where we filled our gap. I don't think MicroStrategy will revisit the high twos until the cycle comes to an end. I could be wrong in that thinking, but I personally expect 2025 to be very good. MicroStrategy continues to massively build up their Bitcoin balance. As Bitcoin finishes off this year, who knows where it ends up? I have it at 150K, maybe it does more than that, maybe not. But you know, if Bitcoin gives us a 50%, I would expect MicroStrategy to give much more than that. I do think before this cycle ends, MicroStrategy will take out its previous all-time high. And doing that alone is already almost a 50%. It's closer to 40%. But I think the bull run for Bitcoin isn't over. The bull run for the Bitcoin derivative is far from over. Just be aware that we are getting later and later into the cycle. Bitcoin's been in a bull run for multiple years now. We do have a business update from Iren. We had an announcement of a $1 billion at the market facility, which is basically dilution. Makes sense why we're selling off a bit. Not many other companies can announce dilution and have the stock rally similar to MicroStrategy. The FOMO and the excitement seems to be overpowering the fact that there's going to be a massive increase of shares. And for example, with MicroStrategy, if all those shares were just dumped into the market today, which isn't going to happen because it's a 2-year plan, but let's just say all those shares were just offered today. Shareholder value would be 1/30th of what it was. That is quite a lot of dilution. On the long term, I think MicroStrategy has a genius plan. But I do think this upcoming crypto winter will be a bit rough for MicroStrategy, because if Bitcoin's in a downtrend and they're over here buying Bitcoin, selling their shares off, which are also potentially in a downtrend, who wants to be in MicroStrategy when the trend changes? Something to think about multiple months from now. But we're not there yet, in my opinion. Now back to Iren. They're expecting to expand their capacity to 57 exahash by the second half of 2025. 50 exahash on track for the first half of 2025. That's my main focus. Second half of 2025, this is where, in my opinion, we want to be taking our profits and planning our exit. You don't want to stick around to see them finish their second half of 2025 and get to that 57 exahash. You want to sell into strength. At least that's what I want to do. They're also initiating direct-to-chip liquid cooling systems. And they mentioned this should enable rapid scaling for cloud and co-location opportunities. They're advancing their construction at Sweetwater, including a 1,400 megawatt substation electrical build-out targeted for energization in April 2026. That's going to be interesting. They're progressing a multi-gigawatt data center development pipeline to further enhance Iren's portfolio of scarce power, land resources, and they're doing an ongoing analysis and evaluation of capital sources, i.e. dilution, debt. They believe this additional growth will help enhance Iren's robust operating cash flows. further reduce their already industry-leading production costs. And that's not a lie. Look at their fleet efficiency. This is leading fleet efficiency. Find me a Bitcoin miner with a better one. Last update, we heard that they were like a 17. They are now at a 15. Less is more, less is better. This is more efficient. Now there is more details about their Sweetwater site, etc. So make sure you check it out in the links down below. Iren is selling off a bit. It's down like 10%. A lot of the other Bitcoin miners are down. Some are turning green now. One thing with Iren is their upcoming earnings. They expect massive revenue growth and nearly profitable, although still unprofitable. But keep this in mind. When they gave last earnings, this was towards the end of November. Remember, Bitcoin at the end of November wasn't even in the 100,000s yet. And for a good part of November, Bitcoin was in the 70,000s. Bitcoin ended its fourth quarter very strong. I expect the Bitcoin miners reporting Q4 to surprise us. This is when Iren gave earnings and forward guidance. This is before Bitcoin ran to about 107, 108. This is when Bitcoin only made it to 100,000. So Bitcoin did end Q4 relatively strong to prices we never saw before. I do expect many of their forward guidances to be beaten. Now, Iren does have this ascending support, which it kind of reacts on. We've broken it and regained it, regained it right here. There's also a fight for the 50 MA. It keeps getting rejected on the 50 MA. I think once we can reclaim it, it's boom time. We are seeing higher lows, higher highs, but we do need to reclaim that 50 MA, like I said, and reclaim this as a support. You do see a reaction when you break it, and you do see a positive reaction when we break up it. Could be combined with the 50 MA. Maybe the market's watching the 50 MA more than that trend line, but I would leave it there and keep an eye on it. We break up from it, we'll probably rally a little bit, hopefully see a new higher high, which will be a positive sign. In my opinion, Iren will keep following its trend. It has been in a bull market since the beginning, since it was like $1 in the beginning of 2022, even with the Bitcoin miners doing somewhat poorly. Even with the Bitcoin miners getting half of their rewards cut. Iren is still almost 10x from its bear market lows. Iren is still outperforming Bitcoin. Where are these Bitcoin miners when they're back in play? Where are the Bitcoin miners when they're profitable? While Bitcoin will probably do a 50% from here, maybe a double, which is what some people expect, 200k Bitcoin. If Bitcoin does 50%, Iren's $20 price target is a certainty in my opinion. If Bitcoin does a 2x to 100k, I do think this $20 price target would be very, very too conservative. And even now, maybe it is, because things can change quickly. Once these Bitcoin miners get back to profitability, this is when things get crazy. Here's an example. This is a quarter where Iren reported a profitable quarter. Look at the reaction we got. We went from $5 to $15 in like 2 months, or a 200% from that price. When the Bitcoin miners get back to profitability, there's no reason Iren can't be a $20 stock or well above it. But it is a matter of regaining profitability. Until then, they're going to continue to dilute. They're going to continue to burn cash. But we are on the brink of profitability again, and I do think that all starts with Q4. Some will post profitability for Q4 and surprise us, in my opinion, and many of the others will post profitability in Q1 of 2025. Now, how do you guys feel about this MicroStrategy news? This is definitely a massive amount of dilution. Is Wall Street going to buy it this time? That's the question. Who knows? Call me crazy, but I personally do expect the Bitcoin miners to outperform MicroStrategy from here. I don't hold MicroStrategy, but I wish everybody the best, and hopefully this dilution gets bought up like crazy by Wall Street and they see the bigger picture. But this is a massive amount of dilution, you know, a 30x increase in shares. And that's just with the commons. They also are going to increase their preferred stock from 5 million to 1 billion. This does give them plenty of money to be able to buy Bitcoin. This will keep them competitive with the spot Bitcoin ETFs. They're trying their damnedest. I think that ship has sailed, and the spot Bitcoin ETFs are going to just continue to outpace MicroStrategy. But Michael Saylor is trying his damnedest. And also, how are you guys feeling about Iren? They are the leading Bitcoin miner in efficiency. Efficiency is key. I do think things get exciting around earnings season for the Bitcoin miners. We don't have a long wait left, right around a month or so. Earnings should start in February. But thanks as always for watching, guys. Some of the Bitcoin miners are starting to flip green as I speak. Hopefully we see a strong close for them. They're on the brink of getting back to profitability again after having cut those rewards in half. We're finally getting those good quarters again. But how are you guys feeling about upcoming earnings? Do you think the Bitcoin miners are going to beat or going to miss? Do you think some are going to see profitability, or we're going to have to wait until that first quarter of 2025? Let me know your comments below, guys. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.